Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, dan selamat pagi Bapak Ibu semua. Perkenalkan, nama saya Siti Nurfaidah dari Pusat Studi Publikasi Ilmiah RJI. Di kegiatan hari ini adalah rangkaian dari kajian publikasi ilmiah yang diselenggarakan oleh PSPI. Kegiatan hari ini adalah seri ke-10, di mana PSPI mengundang OAT untuk berbagi dengan kita semua tentang Elicit. Elicit adalah salah satu artificial intelligence research assistant yang terbaru. Nanti akan bergandeng dengan, kita bisa memakainya bergandeng dengan berbagai research assistant tool yang lainnya. Sedikit tentang PSPI. PSPI adalah sebuah divisi baru di bawah Relawan Jurnal Indonesia yang diresmikan pada 8 Februari 2020 dengan visi, jadi visi PSPI adalah menjadi pusat inovasi pengelolaan publikasi ilmiah di Indonesia, dan PSPI sendiri menjadi pusat kajian publikasi ilmiah pertama di ASEAN yang diharapkan dapat menelurkan kajian-kajian terkait peningkatan mutu dan kualitas dengan memperhatikan tren dan isu pengelolaan berkala elektronik di dunia. Dan untuk mewujudkan visi tersebut, maka misi yang dibawa PSPI adalah kami menyusun roadmap penelitian tentang publikasi ilmiah di Indonesia, dan kami menyelenggarakan kajian ilmiah rutin seperti ini terkait publikasi ilmiah, baik dalam hal riset maupun publikasi, dan kemudian kami mendiseminasi hasil kajian dalam bentuk seminar maupun konferensi, dan mempublikasikan hasil kajian tersebut dalam bentuk proceeding, jurnal, atau buku. Baik, hari ini bergabung dengan kita adalah Amanda Ong. So Amanda Ong is here with us today as the representative of OAT. Beliau adalah perwakilan dari OAT. Amanda recently completed a BA in Economics and a BA in International Studies in the Huntsman program at the University of Pennsylvania, where she worked on behavioral science research with Dr. Angela Duckworth. Amanda previously interned at Upstart as a growth analyst. Jadi Amanda ini, pemateri kita pagi ini masih sangat muda ya, sama dengan kita semua, I believe. As I said earlier, Amanda Ong does product at OAT. OAT itself is a product-driven research lab that develops mechanisms for delegating open-ended thinking to advanced machine learning system. So today, we're going to listen to Amanda's presentation of Elicit. Presentasinya akan dalam bahasa Inggris. Saya nanti akan membantu untuk mereka pada saat Amanda selesai presentasi, apa yang disampaikan. Tetapi saya yakin bahwa semua partisipan kita hari ini paham ya apa yang disampaikan. Bapak Ibu nanti jika memiliki pertanyaan atau ada yang mau dikonfirmasikan, silahkan ditulis di chat box. Kami akan membantu untuk menyampaikan ke Amanda. No worries, silahkan di dalam bahasa Indonesia boleh. Kami akan menerjemahkannya nanti ke dalam bahasa Indonesia. So, alright. We're going to listen to Amanda's presentation of Elicit. Yeah. Elicit is the artificial intelligence research app developed by young people at OAT. So, all right, Amanda, if you're ready, I think it's time for you to tell about yourself and Elicit. Time is yours.
Oh, I was muted. Thank you so much, Sichi. I just want to start by saying how incredibly grateful I am to be here. This is, it's absolutely amazing that so many of you are here. And when I first spoke to Lydia, I was so excited to hear about her story and the work that you're doing. And I understand that this is both people working on open access science and also literature students. And I think this is one of the things that's really close to our hearts, is thinking about how do we make research and science knowledgeable to everyone? How do we help experts sort of navigate the vast research literature? And so, having so many people from Indonesia and sort of like seeing so many of you here is so exciting to us. So I just want to thank you all so much for coming. And yeah, I'm very excited to show you what we've built.
Yeah. So thank you for being here as well, Amanda.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen. We'll see if this works. So I'm just going to present, and then share. Oh, it looks like you've disabled screen sharing. Is it possible for you to enable that? I think you'd have to, oh, perfect. Thank you. That should work. Okay, so let me share. Okay. Can you all see this? I guess
Yeah,
thumbs up.
later.
Perfect. Great. So today I'm really excited to chat to you about using Elicit for research. So as CT mentioned, I'm Amanda. I work at Audit on Product. We're a small nonprofit, and we've been building Elicit for the past around a year. So today I'm going to chat about what is Elicit, and then briefly look at the different stages of a research that Elicit can help with. And I'm going to spend most of my time demoing it so that you can see how it works and how you can use it. And then we'll have time for a Q&A at the end. So to start out with, what is Elicit? So Elicit is an AI research assistant built on language models. It's built by the nonprofit Audit. And overall, the sort of vision is we're trying to deeply understand what the research process looks like, and then figure out how we can use the sort of like frontier technology of language models to break down the research process and automate it. And in a way that I think is probably like similar to a lot of your visions, really think about how do we make research like dramatically faster? How do we make it easier to sort through all of the knowledge that's out there and actually get an answer to your question? How do we make sure that it, instead of taking months to get to the frontier of literature, it takes days? And really thinking about how do we make this accessible not only to researchers, but also to the general public and the kinds of questions that you're asking in your day-to-day life. So we're trying to do that with Elicit. So research obviously is very complicated, and there are many different types of research and research flows. But what we found by talking to a lot of different researchers is that there are sort of some themes in the stages, and I'm going to talk through a few that we're trying to help with Elicit. So the first is brainstorming research directions. So this is when you are starting out in a research project, and it's really the sort of like brainstorming, open-ended, divergent phase. So you're thinking about what are the right questions to be asking, what are the right hypotheses to be testing, that kind of thing. And we have different tasks. In Elicit, we have a task which is basically a small research unit of work. So we have different tasks that help you with that sort of brainstorming phase. And then once you've done that, we move into the finding literature phase. So this is really about what have other people already written, what is the frontier, and sorry, I think I'll ignore that. Someone else can admit this person. Where are the gaps that your research might contribute to? And then obviously there's many stages in between, data collection, data analysis, but then you get to the actual writing stage. So converting all of your ideas and your knowledge and your thinking into a paper that you can then publish. So I'm going to go through how Elicit can help with each of these stages. So let me now switch to Elicit itself. Can everyone see this? I'm going to assume yes. Okay, great. So this is the homepage of Elicit. So when you land, it says ask a research question. And you have a space here to ask a research question. I'm actually going to start by going to, so we have this thing up here, which is a list of all the tasks that we have in Elicit. So you can see here, the first task is literature review, explore research questions. And that's the task that you land on here. There's also a whole bunch of other tasks that you can run. And so you can, once you sign up for Elicit, you can explore these in your own time. There's a lot here that you can play around with, many that actually users have made themselves. So you can create your own tasks here, which I won't go into, but I can share resources on how to do that later. So let's look at brainstorm research questions. So if we go to this task, the idea is that you can enter in a topic, a question, a sort of vague research direction, and Elicit will help you brainstorm research directions that you might be missing, more specific things you can focus on. it's basically, sort of sparks your thinking about what areas you can explore. So here, let's try, how do we increase the number of open access papers? So if we run this, Elicit is now generating different research questions along the similar line. So we can look at each of these. What proportion of research papers is published in an open access venue? That seems pretty good. So if we like the research question, we can star it. And what starring does is here, if you click show more like starred, Elicit's going to give you more that is similar to this. So you can really sort of guide Elicit in real time about what direction you want it to go in. This one looks a bit noisy, so we can just delete it. And then this looks good. What initiatives and strategies are already in place might be helpful to know. This is interesting. It might be helpful to break it down by field. So in biomedical sciences, are there more or less open access papers than in other fields? Might be helpful to know what is the rate of change of open access over time. So what is the trend that's already going on? And then this is also interesting, like which countries have the most open access articles. I hear Indonesia actually does pretty well at this. So you might want to break down by different countries. Then what is the proportion of papers? We've already seen one like this, so we can get rid of this. And which fields are associated with the highest level of open access? So once you've gone through and reviewed some of the questions that you like, you can click show more like starred, and Elicit now generates more that are similar to this set. So is there any evidence that greater access increases citations, publication, or innovation? That seems really helpful to know. Then how has the price of research papers changed? So on and so forth. So you can keep going until you feel like you have enough questions to work with. And then if you want to clear your workspace, you can just click clear unstarred, and it gets rid of everything that you haven't starred, so you don't want to see anymore. And then you can just download this. So then you can open the CSV and copy this into whatever Word document you're working in, or just have this as a sort of checklist of questions to go through and try and answer. So there's lots of other brainstorming tasks. I won't show these now, but you can go and explore, and there's many that can sort of spark your thinking in different directions. So we'll go back here. That's the brainstorm research directions phase. So now we can look at actually finding literature. So we'll take one of these questions actually. So this one, is there any evidence that greater access increases citations? Seems really interesting. So let's run this task, literature review, on it and see what we find. So does open access increase citations? So when we run this, what we get back is a table where each row is a paper. So here we have the paper title, and then this column looks through the abstract and then answers our question based on the abstract. So it says how the paper is relevant to the question you asked. We also have the year it was published and how many citations it has. So before we review these, let's add a few more columns. So you can come up here and click add a column. And then you can see we have a bunch of metadata columns. So authors, journal, let's add journal. So we can see where the paper came from, study type. So we can see whether it's a randomized control trial, a systematic review, a meta-analysis, etc. And then we also have a lot of columns around the content of the paper. So what population was studied, intervention, result, and then you can add your own column down here. I don't think any of these are relevant for this one, so let's just leave it there. So then we can start looking through each of these papers. So this one, open access articles have a citation advantage. This looks relevant, so we can start. And similar to the brainstorming task, when you star a paper, you can go down here and click show more like starred, and we'll find you more papers that are similar. We're actually looking through the citation tree. So we're looking at all the papers that have cited and referenced this paper, and then we'll show you that. So again, you can sort of guide in the direction you want. When you star also, this paper gets saved in your starred history up here. So if you go to this page, oops, not sure why that isn't working. Normally, you can see all of the, maybe it just hasn't gone through yet. You can see all of the papers here and you can come back to them. So we can keep going through. This one looks super relevant. So moving from paid to open access increases sites by 8% on average. So that's like, kind of answering our question pretty directly. So if we like this and we want to dig in more, we can open up, click on it to open up this page. And then we get the paper title, links to the PDF and the DOI and Semantic Scholar. And then we also get the abstract here. So we can read it and dig into what it actually said. And then if we want to go deeper, we can just open up the PDF and go and look at where they actually got the data from. Then if you don't like a paper, if it doesn't seem relevant, you can just delete it and get rid of it from your view. Then you can also, you see that some of these have more citations than others. If you want to focus on just the most cited papers, you can sort. And then this shows the most highly cited first. So we can see this one looks pretty helpful. So freely available articles do have a greater research impact across all 4 disciplines. So we might want to dig into that and look at what they're saying there. We can also, it looks like some of these were written like, a decade ago. So if we want to focus on more recent papers, we can come up to add a filter. And then you can filter for the abstract containing keywords, date published, and type of paper. So here we can say, let's just look at the papers that were published after 2020. And then now we're just getting the most recent papers that are about open access citations. And so again, you can go through and star any that seem relevant. And then when you're done starring, you can clear away everything that's, you don't want to look at, and then download the CSV. And in the CSV, you get all of the information, so the paper title, the answer to the question, all of the metadata, so on and so forth. Great. And then I think that's it for this question. So let's try another question. So I want to show a question that is more sort of an intervention kind of question. So let's do, what are the benefits of being bilingual? So we'll just get rid of these filters because we don't want these anymore. And we'll clear out the columns. So again, we get back a list of papers with how they answer the question, year, and citations. And we might want to start by looking at, okay, which columns do we want to add? So study type might be helpful here. And this one is more focused on like actual studies that have been done. So we might want to add population characteristics and outcome measured. So you can see it looks at, again, it looks at the abstract and it says this was done on bilingual children, seniors, and monolingual adults, and it looked at cognitive abilities. So we can go through and again, review each of these papers. So bilingualism has positive effects on attention and task switching capacities. That seems helpful. It's beneficial for cognitive development and academic achievement. Also seems good. Helps with executive, the advantages correlate with teachers' perceptions of home language appreciation. Maybe that's not quite so relevant, so we can get rid of that. Looks like it offers protection against Alzheimer's and dementia in old people. So we can go through and sort of like look at, just star everything that seems relevant. And then we can see in the study type column that a lot of them like are just blank. They're not reviews or RCTs. And this might mean that like, I think this one, yeah. So if we look at this one, this is actually just someone's like travel recount. So this might not actually be very helpful in updating us about the benefits of bilingual, being bilingual. So we can go here, add a filter, and then filter for, we can just look at reviews, systematic reviews, and meta-analyses. So now we can see that all of these are reviews or meta-analyses. And so maybe these are like, we can trust these a little more. So then again, we can go through and star all the ones that seem helpful to us and dig in deeper if we want to learn more. Then we can also see that like, we can go through this population column and look at the populations that these studies are looking at. So it looks like there's sort of a split between some looking at older adults, some looking at students, some looking at children. So we might want to just focus in on one of these areas. So if we wanted to just look at studying bilingual, being bilingual in children, we can go up to filter and then add a keyword filter here. So this means we'll only show papers where the abstracts talk about children. So then we can apply this, and now we're getting only reviews that are about children and talk about the benefits of being bilingual. And so again, the theme looks pretty similar. So it generally looks pretty great. You know, increases meta-linguistic awareness, divergent thinking. And then this one's interesting. So this one says there's no evidence for harmful effects of bilingual education and much evidence for net benefits. So maybe at this point, we've sort of gone down the rabbit hole of what are the benefits, and we want to like zoom out and get a better understanding of the whole field. So we can try a different query and just say, what are the harms of being bilingual? And so now we're focused on, we're getting back papers that are more looking at harms. So this one actually is still on positive effects, so we can just get rid of that. This is the same one. It says there's no evidence. This one talks about myths. So maybe this would tell us more about things that people think are harms, but are not actually backed by evidence. And this one looks like it could be a harm. So bilingual children develop speech at a slower rate than their monolingual peers. So if we dig into this, we can both look at the abstract here, and we also have a feature called possible critiques. So here we look through all the citations of a paper, so how other people talked about the paper, and we pull out any that seem to be talking about methodological flaws. So if we look at these, we can see only 15 studies used case controls or cohort observations. Many studies were single case studies that focus on interaction patterns between languages. And someone else says there's an inherent sampling bias in studies of bilinguals in countries where they're a minority population. So maybe we want to like not trust this paper quite as much because there are some people who have critiqued some of the methodology of the paper. Great. And then again, once we're done looking at all these papers, we can clear unstarred to get rid of anything we don't want to see, and then download the CSV. And we can also, if you work with Zotero and use that as your reference manager, you can export a bib file and then upload that to Zotero, and it has all the paper titles and authors and metadata that you can keep stored there. Cool. And now I want to show, actually, this was a question that Lydia and I talked about, and then she had mentioned she ran and found helpful. And I want to show this because I think it demonstrates another way that you can think about using Elicit. So let's get rid of these filters and clear out these columns. So the question is, what is a fairy tale? And the reason I wanted to show this is because this is a really good way to sort of like find definitions. So if you're trying to understand like what even is a concept, you can find all the literature that talks about it and then see like how they define it, and then use that to refer to as you're writing your paper. So here we can see fairy tales are more than just a pleasing form. They present a particular way of looking at the world and at human existence. So we might want to star that. And then, you know, if we dig into this one, there's some quote about fairy tales are more than true because they tell us that dragons can be beaten. So we might want to star that and keep track of that one. This one talks about fairy tales in the ancient world and what that might have looked like. This looks at, you know, is there a difference between folk tales and fairy tales? And then this looks at the roots of fairy tales. And what's the difference between myth and folk? So that seems useful as well. So again, we can clear away the ones we don't like, show more for the ones that we do like, and we'll get even more that talk about different ways that people have talked about fairy tales in the literature. So folklore, it's a folklore genre. Maybe literary adaptations of folk tales qualify as fairy tales. This talks about, okay, the fairy tale arose from this person in the 1500s. And yeah, and so then we can clear away anything we don't want, download the CSV, and then this can be used as sort of like a reference for us to come back to whenever we want to understand what are the ways people are looking at fairy tales. We can just save this list. Great. So that's the literature review task, and I'm very excited for everyone to use this and run this to try and find all the different sort of like definitions and answers for the questions that you're asking in your research. And then the last thing I want to show you is some tasks that actually help with writing papers. So if we take, let's take this. Fairy tales are more than just a pleasing form. They present a particular way of looking at the world and human existence. And let's go back to our tasks. So we can go here. And then we can search this task and search for a rephrase. So what this task does is it takes a sentence, and then it generates a bunch of different ways that you can rephrase the sentence. So it might be helpful if you're stuck with writer's block, or it's like hard to communicate something clearly and you just need some inspiration. So we can run this, and then we get back a bunch of different options. So this one looks maybe unhelpful. I think it's pretty similar. Fairy tales offer more than a mere form of entertainment. They provide insights into the way the world is. This one looks pretty similar as well. Fairy tales express an idea about what the world and life should be like. They're more than just nice stories. They present a particular point of view. Or, you know, they present a philosophical outlook. They deal with the central issues and ideas in human life. So then you can, again, download these and then, you know, paste this into whatever document you're working in and you know, use that to help with writing your paper. Great. And then, as I mentioned, there's so many tasks here. So you can explore all of these different things, try creating your own, and try running lit review. So that's it for the demo. I would love to take questions. And I think actually maybe a good way to do this is, as we're doing questions, you can use this time to sign up for Elicit. And then, you know, I can troubleshoot if there are any issues, and you can sort of start playing around with it. But yeah, super happy to take any questions and discuss and hear what you guys think.
All right, thank you very much. It's very inspiring, very insightful presentation from Amanda on how to explore Elicit and give us a different perspective in using the research assistant tool like this one. So, baik Bapak Ibu, Amanda, I have to do some kind of recap in Bahasa Indonesia first before back to you. Baik Bapak Ibu, kita sudah melihat presentasi dari Amanda tadi. Basically, Amanda memperlihatkan kepada kita ada tiga Elicit stages, yang ada tiga yang dasar ya, langkah dasar yang bisa dilakukan pada saat kita menggunakan Elicit ini. Pertama, kita bisa mengetik research question, ya, apapun itu, kemudian Elicit akan menunjukkan kita. Dan kemudian kita bisa menggunakan fasilitas dibintangi ya, dibintang, di star. Jika memang relevan dengan apa yang hendak kita cari, maka itu bisa di start, lalu kemudian bisa dilanjutkan dengan pencarian yang serupa dengan yang dibintangi tadi. Lalu kemudian Elicit juga bisa digunakan untuk mencari literatur. Jadi untuk literatur review itu akan sangat bermanfaat bagi kita dengan cara yang ditunjukkan tadi. Lalu kemudian langkah yang terakhir adalah writing papers ya. Jadi Elicit bisa membantu kita dalam rephrasing. Jadi kita memasukkan sentence, memasukkan kalimat, lalu kemudian akan muncul beberapa parafrase dari kalimat tersebut. Tinggal bagaimana kita melihat mana parafrase yang tepat, mana yang tidak sesuai dengan kebutuhan kita. Termasuk dengan mencari definisi ya. Amanda tadi sudah menunjukkan kepada kita bagaimana Elicit bisa membantu kita untuk mencari definisi melalui fitur-fitur yang ada. Dan fitur-fitur yang ada itu bisa di-custom berdasarkan kebutuhan kita dengan memilih fitur yang basic yang akan tampil itu ada dua, seperti yang ditunjukkan tadi, lalu kemudian kita bisa memilih tahun berapa yang paper-paper tersebut, lalu kemudian citasinya sudah berapa, dan kemudian termasuk jumlah partisipan ya, termasuk jumlah partisipan dan kemudian di konteks mana penelitian tersebut dilakukan. Itu silakan Bapak Ibu dieksplorasi, bisa sekarang sign up di elicit.org ya. It's very helpful tool for us as a researcher, as academics, also as students, yeah. All right. So Amanda, we have some questions here from Kamarul, yeah. Kamarul asked that when we download the research result, do the metadata also include the abstract of each paper, since it is the most important part that we need to start our literature review? So would you like to answer the question now?
Yeah, great question. Yes, they do. So the abstract is in the CSV, and you can also access the abstract in Elicit itself and in the Semantic Scholar link. So yeah.
So that's very interesting, because the abstract also goes with the CFC, right? Ya, jadi Pak Kamarul, pada saat kita mendownload CFC-nya, ya, fasilitasnya itu, abstraknya juga ikut download, ya, seperti itu. Next question from Ima Deswarti. So she thinks that this app is very helpful too for something that she's struggling now, because she's struggling with her dissertation, and she's asking whether this Elicit is a free app or not. Is it free for forever, or it will be paid for someday? Right, Amanda, is it free?
Great question. I saw that there were many people asking this question actually. So yes, it is free. We care most, we're a nonprofit. We care most about, giving access to these tools to everyone. So it's free. We're exploring a sort of donation-based model. So you can contribute what you can to allow other people to have access as well. We'll have to see what happens in the future as more and more people use it, our costs increase. But we really care about making this really accessible. So it's definitely free now, and it'll hopefully remain free for a while.
All right, thank you very much. Jadi Ibu Suarti, free ya, karena berbasis non-profit ya, mereka menjalankan aplikasi ini dari organisasi non-profit, dan harapannya ke depannya juga masih tetap free. All right, so a question from Pak Christian. Is there a dashboard for publisher instead of author in Elicit, just like in Google Scholar or in Microsoft?
Yeah, great question. Let me just show you, and maybe you can tell me if this is what you mean. So we have a journal field, and it'll tell you what journal it was published in. Right. I think maybe that is the same thing. That's the thing that we have that would be publisher. So if it's not that, then we don't have it.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Next question is, does the app facilitate multiple languages apart from English?
Yeah, that seems very relevant. Sure. It actually can work with multiple languages. So you can try just using any language as the input, and it generally understands it. It doesn't work as well for other languages though. And a lot of the papers we get from Semantic Scholar, and that is mostly English papers. So there are papers in other languages, but mostly English. But you can definitely give it a go and see if it works.
Yeah. Baik, thank you. Bapak Ibu bisa dicoba barangkali ya. Kalau saya beberapa hari yang lalu itu sudah mencoba dengan menggunakan bahasa Indonesia dan it works ya. Mungkin kalau untuk bahasa lain bisa dicoba apakah Elicit ini juga, karena Amanda mengatakan bahwa ya ini memfasilitasi berbagai bahasa, karena Elicit ini menarik data dari paper-paper yang ada yang terbit ya secara open access. All right, so another question from Dwinto. He asked that, does Elicit cover all the journal databases and allow us to get the full articles?
Great question. Yeah. So we don't currently have the full articles in Elicit, but we're launching that next week. So stay tuned. We'll add those. But we only have access to open access articles. So about 30% of the papers in Elicit are open access, and so we can provide them. So we're very interested in increasing the number of open access papers so that we can, show more of them in Elicit.
Oke, thank you, Amanda. Jadi Bapak Ibu, paper-paper yang ada di Elicit bisa kita dapatkan selama as far as itu open access ya. Lalu kemudian ya, Bapak Ibu ada yang mau menanyakan secara langsung, barangkali berinteraksi secara langsung dengan Amanda? Silahkan raise hand. Alright, jika belum ada, Amanda, I have tried this Elicit for about 2 weeks, yeah, for about 2 weeks, and then I saw some kind of changes, yeah, this week compared to last week. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so as an organization, we're trying to launch product improvements every week. We really care about, moving quickly and improving Elicit really rapidly. So I think the changes we made last week were we improved the quality of the table extractions. Yeah. So when you extract out a population, we're now more likely to get it right than before. And we did a lot of reformatting to make it easier to see the paper. So now the paper is on the side in a big sort of panel that comes out. And that's where you'll be able to see the full text as well. So, we're exploring a lot of different features around querying the full paper. So you can ask questions and we'll answer it based on the whole paper. Yeah, I think those are the main changes we launched this week, but we're definitely launching things every week. So it will change a lot and hopefully we'll get better.
All right. So does the information only come from the abstract, or you're working on the full article as well?
Currently, it's just the abstract,
right.
And as of next week, it'll be the full text. Hopefully,
Okay, very interesting. So, Bapak Ibu, saya sudah mencoba menggunakan Elicit ini. Saya sudah mencoba menggunakan Elicit ini selama 2 minggu, dan di minggu ini saya melihat perubahan tampilan di Elicit seperti yang disampaikan oleh Amanda tadi. Mereka bekerja hampir setiap hari ya untuk melakukan perubahan-perubahan, melakukan update ya untuk kenyamanan kita sebagai pengguna. Untuk sementara ini data-data itu ditarik dari abstrak, tetapi kedepannya itu juga dari full article, sehingga kalau misalnya tadi kita memilih fitur misalnya jumlah partisipannya berapa, itu akan muncul nantinya. Kalau dari abstrak kan biasanya itu kadang ada, kadang tidak, seperti itu. Ya, Ibu Madya Suwarti, silakan.
Nanti Bapak,
Bapak.
Bu Siti ya.
Maaf,
good morning. Good morning.
Maaf Pak ya.
Yeah, okay.
Baik.
Miss Amanda is kind of interesting. That thank you very much. At the moment, I'm doing in the beginning of my research dissertation. So this kind of tool, I think, will very helpful for me actually. And I already mentioned that I've been struggling to find ideas, something for research question, and also for finding literature. Still, I'm thinking about. I think Bu Siti already mentioned a kind of resources that Elicit have, and how Elicit will connect with the paper that available suggested by the Elicit. Thank you.
Would you mind just repeating the last part of that question? I think I missed the.
Okay. How about the resources? The resources that Elicit have for any kind of knowledge or any kind of subject that available that we can search on. And also the next question is kind of literature of paper, the full paper that Elicit can given to us, that can we read the overall paper, not only the abstract.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I can answer those, and I'm really glad it's yeah, I hope it can be helpful for you at the start of your sort of dissertation and exploration process. I'm very excited for that. So the first question, what the resources Elicit has? Let me try and answer it, and you can let me know if this fully answers your question. So we get all of our papers from Semantic Scholar, and it covers like basically all the fields. So we have papers on many different fields, and if you search any field, you should find some content on that. Elicit tends to work better for sort of like empirical questions. So things that are more around like what are the studies that have been done, and that's just because a lot of our columns work well with that. So you can extract out a lot of information about empirical studies. And then the brainstorming component, you can think of it as a sort of like generalist undergraduate. So it like knows about as much as a generalist undergraduate and can like be helpful in many different domains. But in the brainstorming spaces is not so much an expert in specific domains. Does that help answer your first question?
Yeah, I think so. But okay, I think understand that. Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, we actually have users from basically every academic field. We have a lot of machine learning researchers, a lot of social science researchers, a lot of like biomedical researchers, not as many English literature researchers, but now we will. So that's exciting. So yeah, lots of different types of researchers use Elicit. And then I think your second question.
Do you have kind of transport, something like in the field of transport or transportation, especially the road transportation, something like that? Do you have available resources then?
Yeah, we definitely should. So you can try it out and see what you find.
Okay. I just register the Elicit at the moment. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay,
Another next question.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Made. Ya, great answer from Amanda. Yeah, Amanda. Another question from the audience. He says that Elicit seems to be similar to Publisher, Parrish, Mendeley, and the search feature in Scopus. So can it connect to MS Word?
I'm not familiar with Publish or Parrish actually, so I'd love to learn more about those. The way that and someone else asked, how is Elicit different from Google Scholar as well? I can answer that here as well. So what we're really trying to do is answer your question. So one component of that is finding papers. So like, pulling the most relevant papers, but we're wanting to go much further. So we also tell you how the paper answers your question, pull out information about what the population was. Eventually we want to some of the features we're working on now are around summarizing the full paper. So you can just ask the paper like, what was the methodology, and we can explain that to you. Another key feature is around trustworthiness. So on Google Scholar or Scopus, you just get the paper, and we really want to go beyond that and be like, did the paper randomize correctly? How trustworthy is this journal? Does the logic of this paper make sense? So really helping you with the tasks beyond just finding paper and actually getting to a point where you feel like you can answer your question and explain the answer to someone.
Okay. That's marvelous. All right, so we have another Ibu Dwi Yunita Baska, silakan.
Halo.
Ya, silakan Ibu Dwi.
Myself, clear or not?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. Hi, Miss Amanda.
Hello.
How are you?
Great. Thank you for being here.
Okay. First, maybe it's apologies for me because I can't show my video. If I show it, this signal was not unstable.
All right.
Unstable.
Okay.
And then, thank you. It's very a good opportunity, and I'm very excited to have you here and explain about this Elicit. I've been trying to explore this, and then I'm sign up with the email. I mean, I just got a little bit difficult and confused about how this use. Can I sharing this? How do we got about this? I'm sorry. I mean this in this desktop, in the front of this desktop, we can I can access about this, or we should log in first. I mean, why it can? I haven't downloaded, but it can be run. Is there any problem, or can you show the demo, a bit demo for this? I
Sure,
feel a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Amanda, can you
yeah.
have another the presentation just for a short? Yeah.
So I can
From the start, I think. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you land on this page, if you just click, well, I guess you click sign up here, and then if you have a Google account, it's probably easier to sign up with Google, but you can also sign up with your email.
Yes, I already signed up with email.
Great. And then I'll just sign up here. I guess I've already logged in actually, so I think it'll just reroute me. But it should just take you here. There'll be a little modal that has some questions to fill in, so you can answer those questions. Did that help? I'm also happy to, I will share my email for everyone. And if you have any issues, you can email me with screenshots, and I can send it over to our dev team and get someone helping you. It might be easier if I can see some of the screenshots of what's happening.
Okay, can we try about my okay, I've been trying to, and this success, I think it's success. In this first page, I see in the right or top, you can see in under text, bib.ncsv. How it is it used for? Miss?
Do you mean, let me share my screen again, see if I understand this. Do you mean this button?
Yeah, that's part.
Got it. Yeah. So this downloads a file that you can then upload to Zotero. If you use Zotero or a reference manager, it'll basically take all the papers and upload them into Zotero, so you can store them there.
Oh, I mean, can you show the sample for this?
Yeah, I actually don't have Zotero, so I can just download this file and then I can't open it. But you could basically, yeah. I can actually, if it would be helpful, I can send a demo video of how to do that.
I mean, excuse me, using my share screen or what?
Baik, nanti akan ada demo ya. Setelah
baik,
ini.
baik.
Ya, baik. Akan ada demo, Bu Dwi ya. Nanti Amanda akan menunjukkan kepada kita.
Thank you for answering.
Thank you. Ibu Retno, silakan.
Okay. Hello, Amanda.
Hello.
Hello. I'm going to ask you. I'm wondering if the Elicit can replace the Prisma for the systematic literature review, and is there any publication research that mention using the Elicit I mean, would it be possible? We mentioned in the systematic literature review that we use Elicit for obtaining the researchers, and would it be possible for publication? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I love that because we've actually spent a lot of time trying to understand systematic reviews because we really want Elicit to be helpful for that. And because systematic reviews have such a great methodology, like you just follow the steps and then you end up with sort of good, rigorous research. So the ways that we want Elicit to be able to be helpful is finding a set of papers and then helping with, instead of manually extracting out, the population and the outcome, you can use Elicit as a way to make that process faster. We've had a handful of users use us for systematic reviews, and the way they normally do it actually is using us for the pre-review exploratory phase. So often, I'm sure you're aware, like you want to figure out what is the scope of your review, like what is in versus out, should you count this intervention or not, what search terms should you be looking for? And so Elicit is most helpful for that exploratory phase when you want to quickly figure out what have people already done, and what are the different interventions I could include and which ones do I actually want to include, and then use that to craft your search strategy and your inclusion criteria. We're not quite at the level where we can fully be helpful for the entire process, just because it requires so much precision, and Elicit isn't sort of quite at that level yet. But one of the things that we actually are really excited about is thinking about how do we use Elicit to create systematic review summary tables. When you have like, this was the intervention, this was the result, number of studies, the risk of bias, like, how much we can trust each of these papers, and then have those be dynamic. So you're like, well, what if I take out this study? How does the table change? What if I add in this study? How does the table change? So that's something that we are really excited about moving to. But right now, the best bet is probably to use Elicit for the exploration and sort of inclusion criteria stage.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'd also,
Yeah.
I would love for you to try using Elicit for your systematic reviews, and maybe I can share my email and you can let me know what that process looks like, because I'm really interested in learning more about that.
Well, yeah, because I'm doing a systematic literature review right now, and I'm using a Prisma. It's kind of complicated, I think. And this, I learned today that about Elicit, and I think it is very helpful. Instead of using Prisma, I'm thinking about it. But yeah, that's why I'm asking you. Thank you.
Oke, baik. Terima kasih, Bu Retno. Thank you very much, Amanda, for the very, very insightful. Now back to you, and then we can come after your presentation with the other question and answer session. Amanda?
So I think that's basically everything I wanted to cover. The one other thing I wanted to mention is we are hiring. So if anyone is interested in working on research with us, send me an email. We're looking for engineers, for product people. So yeah, it would be very exciting to work with you guys. So feel free to email me. Yeah, and then sign up at elicit.org. And we love feedback. So join our Slack. Send me long emails telling me what worked and what didn't. That would be awesome. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for all of your time and that you all came out to listen. It really like really warms my heart. Like, this makes me so happy to be able to talk to you guys. So I really appreciate it.
All right. Okay, Amanda. So we still have another time. Apakah masih ada yang bertanya, Bapak Ibu? Amanda, do you feel free to answer some questions?
Absolutely.
Questions?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So Ardiansha asked whether this Elicit can help us doctoral students in finding references regarding articles that they need.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're definitely hoping to help with, the sort of yeah, finding like all stages, including exploring. And then we have a bunch of users who are looking for very specific articles that they want to cite in their papers or dissertations, and they go to Elicit to try and find those articles. So definitely can be helpful for that.
All right, thank you very much. Amanda, do you mind if you show us another demo from the first, and then because probably some of us here, some of the participants were late to join us this morning. You don't
Yeah,
mind?
absolutely. I'm
yeah.
yeah, totally. I can run through another. Does anyone have a question that they're interested in seeing?
Oh, about reflective practice?
Okay. Tell me more about that. What question do you want to ask?
Teaching reflective practice.
Okay. So
reflective teaching practice, sorry. Reflective teaching practice.
What is the question that you want to know there? Like, is reflective teaching practice effective?
Yeah.
Let's try this. So, can wait for this to load. Okay, so just for anyone who wasn't here, this is the main sort of task that Elicit does, and you ask a research question, and then you get back each of these rows as a paper, and then each of these columns is information about the paper. So here, we take your question and we look at the abstract, and then we tell you how the abstract answers your question. So in this case, reflective teaching allows teachers to relate practice and theory within their own particular contexts. You can star papers that seem relevant to you, that you like. What this does is it saves the paper in your starred history, so you can always go back to it. And you can also click show more like starred, and Elicit will look through all the citations and references of the starred papers so that it gives you more papers that are similar to this one. So we can go through and star all the relevant ones. You can sort by citation count, by year, to see this is maybe one of the more fundamental works. And then these are some of the more recent ones. And then you can also come up here and add a column. So we have metadata columns like authors, journal, study type. And then we also have columns that are about the content of the paper. So I'm not sure if any of these will make sense. But maybe this one does. So this tells us what region it was looked at. So Philippines, South Africa, United States. And then intervention, result. If you ask a yes/no question, which this one is it effective? Then you can look at these and it'll tell you like, is it effective or not? So in this case, this paper says it's not effective. So then you can just like look through and see all the ones that are about effectiveness and ones that say it's not effective. And then you can also add your own column. So we can try, let's see. I think it might be kind of hard to add our own column here. But let's say like, let's just add what was the outcome. Then it'll tell you, what did the paper actually find? 85% of students attempted to use gender-fair approaches and material when observed on teaching practice. We also have columns around, we actually already have those columns, so you can look at effect and outcome measured. And effect says, what did the paper find? So it helps them understand the importance of reflective practice. It was found to be effective, and it informed professional practice, it improved teaching. And then outcome is like, what did they measure as the outcome variable? So professional growth, effectiveness, quality, gender fair attitudes. So you can, one of the ways that I use these columns is to sort of, delete anything that I don't want. So say I just want to look at the ones that are effective, then I could look at no, and then get rid of anything that says no and keep everything that says yes. And another way that I find it helpful is like, you can see like so I can see that this has Philippines, South Africa, United States, Australia, and maybe I just want to focus on like the Philippines. And so then I can add Philippines, am I spelling that right? No, there's actually P, there we go. Philippines, and then it's just going to narrow down my focus. So it's a good way to sort of, well, apparently there's not much on the Philippines. but it's a good way to sort of like learn what the field looks like and then pick a place to narrow in on.
What about if you narrow it down to Asia, for example?
Yeah, we could try that. It might not work as well because currently this is just keywords.
Oh,
and
right.
so if it says Philippines, it's not going to show up in the, as Asia.
Right.
But I guess this kind of worked. Yeah. So
yeah.
Now we're seeing maybe this was Australia and Asia, but yeah, we're definitely seeing more in the Asia category.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then the other thing I showed for those who missed it is we have a lot of different tasks. So the one that I just showed over here, oops, where was it? This one was the literature review task here, but you can also run different tasks. So if I run brainstorm research questions, I can ask a similar question. So is reflective teaching effective? And then get back different research directions that I can explore. Mm-hmm. So, in general, which kinds of teaching are effective? What are the barriers for students engaging in reflective teaching? Are there any RCTs on it? What about different fields, so math versus English? How many teachers have been trained in this? And then you can use this as a sort of starting point to spark your thinking. And then if you wanted to, you can go back to, take one of these questions and go back and try and find some answers on it. So here we go. So we found barriers to facilitating reflective teaching include inadequate time allocation, unclear expectations, varying cultural norms. So I might want to save this and then dig deeper into it.
Yeah, very interesting. Very helpful, Amanda.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Bapak Ibu ada yang bertanya, silakan. As for the so you're running the web version, right? You're running the web. You're showing us the web version, right?
Yes.
Someone is asking about the desktop version. Is it different?
Yeah, so it actually is different. We do have a desktop version. Actually, I'm not sure if I think it's basically the same, actually. So yeah, if you download it, you can just run it on your desktop. Yeah.
Yeah, but some people who have downloaded it and then they say that it's kind of different. Some feature is not the same as you're showing today. Yeah, not exactly the same.
Yeah, I'll check that out. Does anyone want to share what they found or what was different about it?
Iya, Ibu siapa tadi yang bertanya ya? Bu Nur ya? Mungkin bisa memberi kita informasi kira-kira bedanya di tampilan yang mana?
Iya, maksudnya tadi saya setelah install ada masalah tidak running. Hanya ingin menanyakan itu kalau running tampilannya seperti apa. Jadi pengen tahu aja. Belum ini berhasil kalau saya.
Oh, baik. Jadi belum kelihatan, Bu ya. Alright, maybe you can check it out later, Amanda.
Okay, great. Yeah, I will do that.
Yeah.
Thanks for flagging that.
Alright, let's see another question. Yeah, from YouTube. Yeah, question from YouTube. From Satrio, his question is: does Elicit have filter to just show the users the high quality paper or something that prove the paper is very reliable?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
And actually, something that is going to be our focus for the next couple of months is around deeply diving into what makes a paper trustworthy and how do we surface that to people. Currently, what we do have is share my screen again. We have this possible critiques tab. So if you click here, you can see how people have talked about it in a way that's critical. So that's often like quite helpful to just ground yourself in you know, how people are talking about the paper. You can also look at citations as a proxy for how trustworthy a paper is. And then one of the things I often do is if I'm asking an empirical question, I'll look at like systematic reviews and meta-analyses primarily, just because those tend to be more like, you know, they're very rigorously done and they like look at all different sides of an argument. So those are often quite helpful. So you can look at the type and yeah. I'd actually love to understand, is there, how do you normally determine whether a paper is trustworthy? And what would you feel excited for Elicit to be able to tell you? Anyone can answer that, but I guess, oh, I guess this person's on YouTube, so they can't answer it. But if anyone has any thoughts, feel free to share those in the chat.
Yeah.
Could you repeat your question, Amanda?
Yeah. How do you tell if a paper is trustworthy, if you can trust a paper? And are there things that you would be really excited for Elicit to be able to tell you about whether a paper, you can trust a paper? Yeah.
Ya, Bapak Ibu, Amanda men-challenge kita dan mengajak kita untuk memberikan informasi kepada beliau bagaimana kita mengkategorisasikan paper yang qualified, high qualified paper, sehingga pihak Elicit itu bisa membantu kita dengan lebih mengupdate lagi ya. Dalam pencariannya nanti itu bisa diarahkan ke high quality paper barangkali. Yeah. So basically, Amanda, Elicit is working on from the abstract. And
Currently.
this week you're working on the full paper.
Yes.
Okay, that's very interesting, very helpful then.
Izin Bu Siti.
Ya, silakan Pak.
Amanda, regarding your inquiry, I think basically we in university have standard for the kind of literature that we have to be used in our dissertation thesis or something like that. Like standard by Scopus, Q1, Q2, Q3. I think basically we have kind of standard like that. So below that, maybe sound accepted by university. I think each university here in Indonesia have different kind of standard, and sometimes even below Q4 this is still acceptable, but some need more than above the Q3 or Q2, something like that. I think that basically because that also correspond with the kind of what the quality of our dissertation of thesis, something like that. Thank you, Amanda.
That's really helpful. We've actually thought that's one of our features that we've been working on is adding the journal like Q2, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. So that's really good to hear that would be useful for you.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Jadi kita menunggu perkembangan Elicit yang terbaru ya. Baik, berikutnya Mbak Lydia, silakan.
Yeah, I want to comment for the question that Amanda referred before about the reputation of journal. Amanda, I am confirming or asking to you about my statement. Is it correct that Elicit only look up the journals or articles which is on the relations, or is it relatable with our questions, research questions, or is it relatable with our themes? So far, Elicit is not dealing with the reputation of the journals or the article itself. Is it correct, Amanda?
Yes. So currently,
only with the relations which
Yeah,
is
go ahead.
it close relate with the abstracts, or we can find a journal based on its relations, not based on the reputation. Right, Amanda?
Let me see if I understood your question. So the way that we rank the papers is mostly based on whether they're relevant to your question. But actually, it does also take into account, are the papers trustworthy? So we get our papers from Semantic Scholar, and Semantic Scholar ranks them based on what are the best papers, including citation count, journal, and then we take the top papers from Semantic Scholar and we re-rank them based on how much they answer your question. So it's more about question, but it actually is both. So mostly you don't find like really bad articles in the top set in Elicit, because we are like looking for what are like highly cited articles as well as relevant ones. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. The quality. So the question, because the questions about the quality of the journals or article in Indonesia, it's very dramatic questions.
Yeah.
So we cannot judge a journal based on the reputations or based on only the quality or the quartile that they have. But believing Semantic Scholar, I think it's very reasonable for Elicit. Thank you, Amanda, for confirming my question.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Lydia. We have Pak Made, silakan.
Okay, thank you, Bu. Amanda, I just open and run the Elicit, but something that different. I have. Can I share my picture? This is kind of different display that I have, and compare with the you show to us.
Yeah. So actually, we're that's totally right.
Okay.
The features that I showed we're about to launch today. So in the next couple of days, basically, it'll look like mine. Currently, it looks a little different, but not too different. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the feature and the above line is I don't have the feature and above line. Only the searching column, and then the CPFs on the right hand.
Yeah, all the functionality is the same. I wanted to show you guys like the most recent up-to-date version. We haven't launched it yet, but it's launching in the next couple of days. So
okay,
yeah.
Terima kasih, Bu.
Ya, terima kasih Pak Made. Penanya dari yang lainnya silakan, Bapak Ibu. Kita masih punya waktu sampai jam 10 waktu Indonesia Barat. Silakan Bapak Ibu. So another question from Duinto, is there any save feature in Elicit so that we can get the same result in future to real our searching process?
Yeah, not yet. So good question. That's something that we're is in our feature pipeline. Currently, the best way to do this is to star things and then go back and see the stars, or just note down your query. So if you run the query again, you should find the same papers. But we're working on allowing you to save your whole workspace, so you can just like reopen it and see all of your columns and stars already there.
All right.
Do you want to tell me more about how you'd want to use this? I'm curious what sparked it.
Yeah. Pak Duinto? Okay. All right. So can you tell us more about the things that you're working now in updating the Elicit, apart from that, the things that you're showing today?
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, we have Duinto. Yeah,
Great. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I'm doing the same things with Ibu Retno, and I want to add the Bu Retno question. I'm doing systematic literature review, I'm trying to using Prisma as my method, and I found in Scopus or in GCR, Web of Knowledge, I found save feature so that I can mention the process in my method in my paper, so it's reliable for the editor or the reviewer to trying the same method and they can find the same result with us. Yeah, that's why I'm curious.
Yeah, that's really helpful context, actually. Maybe Dwinto, if you share your email, or you can find my email. I'd love to chat to you more about what your process looks like and how what features we can do that would make that helpful for you, because we definitely are really interested in helping people with the systematic review process. So, yeah.
Ya, terima kasih pertanyaannya tadi Pak Dwinto sudah membantu kita. Amanda, back to you. My question before about the things that you're working.
Yes.
Tell us something interesting about it.
Yeah, so lots of things that I've mentioned. So the biggest focus for the next month or so is trustworthiness. So we want to make it easy for non-experts to gauge whether they should trust a paper or not. Currently, it's kind of hard. Like, you need to really dig into the paper. You need to be, you need to understand statistics or like be an expert on the methodology. So some of the features we're exploring are, adding the journal quartile, H index, and then also digging into the content of the paper. So if you're familiar with the risk of bias assessment for systematic reviews, going through each of those questions, like, was it randomized? Did they pre-register? And then creating sort of a checklist for, if they didn't randomize, that's a red flag, and you should, be more wary of that paper. And then there's also more exploratory ways to use language models. For example, we can, find a claim and then ask, what is all the best evidence for this claim? And then what is all the best counter evidence? And you can sort of see, like, what things, is the counter evidence stronger than the evidence, such that you don't want to like update on a certain piece of evidence because there's no one else talking about it in that way. So that's one of the big things we're working on. We're also working on summarization. So a feature we're going to launch soon is, now that you have all the papers that you've starred and like, summarize those into an actual answer that's like a little paragraph saying, like, 5 papers mention that this is good, but 2 papers mention it's bad, and like overall we're not sure, or whatever it is. You can come up with some kind of synthesis summary. And then also possibly summarizing the paper itself. So you can see the full text of the paper, and for each section, the methodology section, the results section, there's just a one-liner saying, like, the overall result was blah, 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 ... And then you can expand it and see the actual text. Yeah, those are 2 of the big ones. What else?
Very cool. I mean, summarizing it, it will be very, very helpful for us.
Yeah.
Also, it's kind of hard just reading all the result there, and then it takes us to do some kind of the summary, and then if Elicit could help us with that, it will be very, very awesome.
Nice. Yeah, maybe that's actually a good point for me to ask you. Like, what features would you be most excited for us to work on?
The research questions.
Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, because when I typed the research question, and I was surprised. I was directed to some result there, and then and it comes with a bunch of papers that we can see. I mean, unlike going to the other apps, we have to find it one by one based on the keywords. While it's by typing the research question, then voila, we can find many things. Yeah. also the custom feature, I think, because we can filter the paper based on our need, like how many participants there are in the paper, and then the region as well. I think it's very, very helpful, Amanda. Yeah.
I'm so glad. That's awesome.
Yeah. So okay. So I think
Bu Siti, wah, satu pertanyaan lagi.
ya
tuh.
boleh,
Mohon
silakan
maaf.
Kak. Ya, satu lagi ya, silakan.
Okay. Hello, Amanda. I just trying also the web, and one thing that I still thinking about is that when I just go forward to the first step, when I'm trying to go to the back step, especially to recover what I'm just questioning before, I couldn't find. I cannot undo the step.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very sorry about that. We have not built that yet.
I see.
I'll add that to our feature request list.
Okay. And another thing about repricing. Can you tell me about more about that? Because there is some kind of plagiarism something that regarding the repricing. There is a question about plagiarism. So could you please more explain to us about repricing?
Yeah.
So
the refreshing feature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the refreshing feature.
feature, Amanda.
Yeah, good point. I think you have to use it with, wisdom and like not taking entire abstracts and then just rephrasing them, but more as a tool when you're writing something and you're stuck and need some like inspiration. So yeah, I think as with all language model and all tools really, it's about like using it in a way that's responsible. So.
Iya. Bagaimana Pak Made?
Okay, thank you. That's enough. Thank you very much, Amanda. Very helpful and easy application. I hope that the overall picture of the application can we have for free, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you, Pak Made. Amanda, someone said here that you rock. It means that, yeah, you rock and Elicit rocks. Yeah.
Yay,
Very,
I'm so
very
happy.
helpful. Yeah. And we are also very happy to be able to get this kind of information about Elicit, because we're doing this kind of works, research, publication, and we deal a lot with the research papers there in the virtual world. Amanda, so I think it's coming into the end of our session. So would you like to do some kind of brief recap before finishing your presentation?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I guess I can just recap what we covered. So we're building Elicit, we're a nonprofit, and Elicit has many different tasks. You can explore the different tasks, try them out. Generally a good attitude is like, try lots of things. So if it doesn't work, change your query, try again. You're sort of like, it's a human and tool system. So like you're really working with the tool to get the outcome you want. I'm really excited for you to try the literature review task, and you can use it to find papers, for the exploration in your systematic review, defining terms, all of those kinds of things. And yes, thank you for sharing my email again. Definitely email me. So if you have any features where you're like, I really wish that they would build this feature, we actually listen to those because we're building features every week. So like, it's very likely we'll build it. So share any feedback, tell us what it worked for, tell us what it didn't work for. Yeah, and again, I'm so grateful. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you very much, Amanda. So terima kasih banyak, Amanda. Thank you very much. In Bahasa Indonesia is terima kasih. So terima kasih, thank you very much for coming into our webinar series. Sekali lagi Bapak Ibu, this is the end of the session. Kita sudah mendapatkan hal yang banyak dari penjelasan Amanda tadi tentang Elicit, aplikasi research assistant yang bisa menjadi asisten kita di dalam penelitian kita maupun publikasi. Ya, terima kasih banyak atas kehadiran Bapak Ibu, kemudian pertanyaannya yang juga membantu kita untuk lebih memahami penggunaan aplikasi ini, dan semoga aplikasi ini bisa kita gunakan berdampingan dengan aplikasi-aplikasi artificial intelligence yang lain dalam membantu kita dalam melaksanakan research dan publikasi. Baik, saya kembalikan kepada Mas Reza, silahkan.
Baik, terima kasih Ibu Siti Nurfaida atas waktunya, dan thank you so much, thank you very much Amanda for coming and attending our event. So hopefully this very platform very useful for us, and not only for students but also for all the scholars in Indonesia. I think that's all is really helpful for us. So we do thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Itu saja Bapak Ibu, silakan Bapak Ibu yang berkenan untuk bisa isi absen yang sudah kami share di kolom chat. Jadi nanti absen akan sertifikat akan kami kirimkan melalui link yang tertera. Jadi nanti silakan diisi absennya. Itu saja Bapak Ibu, terima kasih sudah hadir di kajian PSPI seri ke-10. Yes, Amanda, thank you so much. It's really nice to meet you here, and we are glad to be here. And yeah, thank you so much.